Welcome,
Welcome,
Housewives of True Crime.
housewives.
Margot's back in the house.
Hi, everyone.
I'm actually going to see Margot this
Yes,
week.
I know.
Yeah, I'm
You've been
coming
coming out to
back.
Florida a lot. I think you like it here.
I know. Who knows? Maybe I'll move there one day and we'll be
Oh my
neighbors.
goodness. I know. I know. I do want to tell everybody that I remember when you were like, you should come on occasionally for the housewives. And I was like, but I'm not a housewife anymore. I'm not married. And then you said, Neither are any of the other housewives. Like, you're like a perfect housewife.
It's only
And
true.
I thought that was perfect. I was like, well, I am divorced. So just if anyone was wondering.
And you haven't been to jail. So there is one thing that the housewives have on you.
Yeah, that is
Uh,
true. That is true.
I've
Scary.
been listening, or I listen watch to shows, and
Hmm.
so I've been listening watching the Housewives of Salt Lake City because everybody says that that's the best one to watch. So
Really?
I've been yeah I it's like some Mormons,
I
some
was just about to say, are there any Mormons in the show? Okay.
yes, and then there's some ex-Mormons. So that
Okay.
puts a little spin on it.
Hmm.
Then there's Mormons that don't act like Mormons. And there's, a takedown. Somebody gets arrested on the show um, for like money laundering. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's what the rumor on the street is.
What?
So, yeah,
I wonder, like,
yeah.
if the cops, like, I wonder if I'm assuming the cops just show up, that they wouldn't, like, give a warning to the show, right? Because it's like, if they give a warning to the show, the people could just, like, not be around. I don't know.
I know. So isn't that crazy that they
Yeah.
were actually filming when it happened? Yeah, I think that's where everybody's like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I was telling Margot earlier about my Iceland trip, and if you were on our Patreon on Housewives, I talked a little bit about it last week. But did you look up the Iceland case? There was a
I did.
murder in Iceland. Did you?
I didn't look it up, no.
Oh, okay.
Remember,
So there.
I've been without internet all day.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. So there was a murder in Iceland a couple, maybe like a week before we left. And I followed this Iceland Facebook group. And so it just popped up, and so I was like, oh my gosh, let me look into this. What the heck? And it happened to be at the hotel that we were staying at. I'm
It
like, of
happened a
course.
week before you got to Iceland.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm like, of all hotels. And it's the only hotel in the whole entire city that our points were good for. So I was like, I'm not switching hotels. But I told my husband, I knew it was on the fourth floor. And I told him, like, we are not staying on the fourth floor. Like, you better tell the receptionist before we even check in that we're
Yeah.
not staying on the fourth floor.
Yeah.
He thinks I'm like batshit crazy. So he checks us in, and I walk up, and the lady's like, "Here's your keys," and it says like 404 on
Oh
it, and I'm like,
no.
"Hell no, we are
Nope.
not staying on the fourth floor.
Mm-mm.
I'm not doing it." My
Mm-mm.
daughter was like, "Why? Who cares? We're not staying in that same room." I was like, "I don't care. I don't need that bad
Juju.
voodoo up in
That bad
my."
juju. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so what did you do?
I told her, I said, "Oh yeah, we're not going to stay on the fourth floor." And obviously, like she goes, "Okay, I'll switch you." I just think they probably, every single person that walks up, they're like, "Here, let's try to put them on the fourth floor, see if they say anything."
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, so no, she switched us to the fifth floor right away. So
Wait, but
I
you
didn't even
get
have
tell a
to
little bit of the facts.
explain.
Like tell a little bit of the facts of what happened because you think of a
Okay.
murder. I mean, what you told me was just like so bizarre.
Yeah, it is really bizarre. So what we know, because they don't give a lot of details in Iceland, is that it was a family, a mom, and at least a husband and a daughter that were on vacation. They were from Ireland, but French nationals,
Okay.
living in Ireland, there for a week. And at the end of their trip, I think it was like the last day before they were leaving, the mom murdered the family.
Crazy.
So
So it was a double homicide.
double homicide. Supposedly, when they got to the hotel room, she was also cut up. Maybe she stabbed them, by the way. And so
Oh
maybe
gosh.
she tried to like off herself also. I'm not sure. I mean, I keep looking because I'm very interested. And then the crazier thing is that we were walking downstairs early morning to go on our hike the next day, maybe around like 9. And I think it was like 4 or 5 full officials with their badges hanging around their neck are going upstairs. And I was like, see, this crime scene is still
Active.
intact. It's still active. There's still stuff going on there. I would prefer to be them and go and investigate what happened.
It seems like every time you go on vacation or somewhere, you have like hotel drama. Because remember when you went to CrimeCon in the UK, there was like the guy who left a note in your room.
Oh yeah.
And then now you have like a murder that happened. That is wild. That is insane. Like, girl,
Creepy.
girl.
I know. Other than that, the hotel was actually spectacular, but we didn't stay in that city very long. And here, the other thing I wanted to tell you, which is happening in my life, my daughter talked my husband into getting a damn hamster.
Oh my gosh, no. Well, at least a hamster. Well, you already have a dog, but a hamster is so much better than a dog. Like, at least, I don't know.
No, it's not.
It's
this
not?
little shit it bites like it. You put the hand in the cage and it bites you. And it's not like a little nibble. It's like it's pissed that your hand is in the cage. And it's like a teeny tiny little dwarf hamster, so it bites and then it's like hangs on to your finger, so you gotta like flick it off.
Oh, hell no. Oh my God. Do you
I
guys
know.
like feed it like lettuce or anything? Like put it in there and see how like it bites through? Like, you know?
Well, my kids are now wearing oven mitts to hold this thing. And because it's biting. So guess what? I'm taking it back.
You taking it back to the store?
Yeah, I'm taking it back to PetSmart.
Oh, first of all, I can't believe I can't believe your husband fell for that. Your daughter is about to
I
leave.
know.
Like, why would he even think that this is a good idea?
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, what? Or like, what? Now I get to take care of another animal?
No. No.
No.
Mm-mm.
So no, it's such a bad investment. But
Girl, you did.
after this podcast, that's what we're doing. We're going back to PetSmart and I am going to beg them to take this little fucker back.
Oh my gosh. Well, talk about investment. I in the fall, I got 2 golden doodles, like micro golden doodles. So they're maybe weigh like 10 or 11 pounds soaking wet. And my girls are now with their dad for 5 weeks and I'm stuck with the dogs. So I'm like, this is the worst.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm legit. Like next year, going to be like, when you take the girls, you got to take the dogs. Like they're their dogs. The dogs are theirs, mind you. I purchased one dog, and he purchased the other one, so they're totally like the girls' dogs.
Oh yeah.
So I got stuck with them. Now by the way, he did take the dogs. I think it was Christmas time or maybe it was Thanksgiving, whatever. I can't remember what it was. He took the dogs when he took the girls for a week, but he lives like in a 2-bedroom apartment and he was like, oh, this is too much, yada, yada, yada. But they were little and the dogs were not like fully potty trained yet. So by next year, they're going to be like almost 2. And I'm going to be like, you got to take the dogs. Because like even recently I was talking to my mom about potentially going to visit in Jersey. And even I'm going to have to go get a dog. I'm going to have to get a dog sitter when I come to see you near Tampa or Sarasota. And so it's just like, it's like literally having children. It's like having children and you can't take them with you.
No, that you are so right. You definitely need to have him. That's part of your agreement. Like, sorry, you have to take the dogs with the kids. So you can have a break.
Yeah. It's like not fun at all.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the story.
All right, let's get into it. All right, Tab. Our story today takes us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee has a population of 560,000 people. And when I was looking at Milwaukee, right, because I didn't do a Zillow, but I wanted to see kind of like what Milwaukee was known for, I discovered that it is famous for its rich brewing history, so beer, and lively neighborhoods. But actually, it is something else that makes this city infamous. It's actually, do you know what it is?
Cheese?
No. Okay, it's not cheese. It is actually the custard capital of the world.
No, I did not know
Yes.
that.
Okay, so I love custard. Do you love custard or do you like custard? Like, is that your thing?
It's not my thing.
Oh.
I haven't had a lot of custard, but Maybe I should try it more.
I love
It's so
custard.
good.
It is so good. It is like really good. It's just like so thick and creamy. Like it's just like I don't know. I love it. Like so if I'm going to splurge on my calories, I definitely prefer custard over like
Is
regular
it
ice
like
cream.
it's like pudding, yeah?
It's like ice cream, just like thick and like feels like ice cream. Have you been to Culver's before? Is there a
No.
Culver's in Okay, so there's a Culver's. I wonder if there's one where you're going to be at. Oh, we should definitely go.
Well,
But
we should go.
yeah, Culver's, and they have like flavors of the day. They have like a different flavor of the day. It's just really really good. It's tasty. So anyway,
Okay.
I had no idea that Milwaukee was known for that, and actually, it has more frozen custard shops than any other city on the planet. So anyway, that was just a little bit of like Milwaukee history. But listen, there's not a custard shop in this story, but Milwaukee is where our story begins. Okay.
Okay.
So 19-year-old Sade Carlina Robinson grew up in Milwaukee. And in April of 2024, she was weeks shy of graduating with her criminal justice associate's degree from the Milwaukee Area Technical College. And she had participated in ROTC when she was in high school. And her plans were to get her degree and then enlist in the military. And I heard somewhere that she specifically wanted to be in the Air Force, go Air Force. And everyone knew about her dream to join the Air Force. After joining the Air Force, she also wanted to get in law enforcement, which makes sense because she's a criminal justice major. That was my major actually in undergrad as well. Well, Sade wasn't just going to school. On top of studying, she was juggling two part-time jobs. And one of those jobs was at a popular Milwaukee pizza spot called the Pizza Shuttle. Now, Sade was always on time and she always had a smile on her face. And as I was reading about Sade, everyone talked about her smile. And when you look at all the pictures that have been released of her, she just has this big, beautiful smile on her face. So she also had a second job, and in her second job, she worked at the Wisconsin Country Club. Her mom, Sheena Scarborough, was so proud of her daughter, and Sheena raised Sade and her sister to be very cautious and to look out for themselves, especially because tragically, it appears that violence against young Black women is far too common. And it's actually really common in Wisconsin where they lived. It's reported that Black women are 20 times more likely to be murdered than their white peers. And, you know, if you're a Black woman, that is a chilling statistic. And that's something that was very much on Sheena's mind because she had two adult daughters, right? And so she kind of like instilled this, like, you always got to be careful. You always got to watch your back. And she even had a system, which we all have, and they used to all track each other. And I use, what is that called on the Apple device? Find my app, Find My Phone or whatever, where you
Yeah.
can track your friends.
Yeah.
Well, this family, they liked to use an app called Live 360.
We
And
use that.
that's what you use? Okay.
Yeah.
So is it better than the Find My
Yeah.
app? Is it?
You'll like it when your kids get phones. You'll like it a lot because you can put in like if my daughter, like I'll put in my daughter's school and it'll say like it'll pop up and I'll say like Kyla made it to school. And
Oh,
then
okay.
it'll say Kyla left school. And so it gives you kind of just more than that Find My iPhone. It gives you some like extra security.
Oh.
Like the other day, you know, it said Kyla left home. And so I was like, what? Why are you leaving home? You know?
Yeah. Well, I bet you that because I've seen that on the Find My app where it tells you like you can actually put like a perimeter and it can tell you when something leaves that location or that when whatever moves. I just haven't set that in place for me or my kids. So, but I bet you they're trying to keep up with Live 360. But I've heard of a lot of people that use Live 360. Okay, so let's talk about Sade and what she was doing in March of 2024. So this young lady was 19 years old. She's single and guess what? She's ready to mingle, right? So she's open to meeting new people and she's dating different folks here and there. And in late March of 2024, while she's out with her friends, she starts chatting with a local guy named Maxwell Anderson. And I'm going to call him Max because that appears to be his nickname. So Max is quite a bit older than her. He's 33 years old. And remember, she's only 19. But they hit it off on this particular night, and as they were chatting, they planned to have like an official first date on April 1st. So Max is a local guy that worked as a bartender. He had a lot of really different part-time jobs and temporary jobs, and he wasn't a complete stranger to Sade, as I said. Now, right before I got on the line with you, I actually found out that he had joined the Navy in April of 2000. And he had joined the Navy at some point, and within like months, he had gotten kicked out or sent home or whatever it is. It's unclear why, but once we learn what he does, it's kind of probably a good thing that he didn't continue to serve. Well, Sade was super excited about her date with Max, and I don't know, Max kind of looks like he kind of looks a little bit weird, but maybe that's just because I've seen what he looks like when he was like, had been arrested or whatever, but she's this beautiful woman, and maybe it was because he was tall, maybe it was because he was older, maybe he kind of had like that bad boy appeal, but regardless, Sade was super excited to be going on this date, so much so that she lived in an apartment complex, and she even told people that as she was like going through the apartment, like, oh, hey, I have like this super exciting date coming up. And so she was just gushing. All right. Let's fast forward to April 1st. And right, it's like a really bad day to have a date, right? Like on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, April Fools.
Yeah. Well, that evening, like right after she got out of work, it was like about 5:30, Sade showed up to the restaurant where they were going to meet for dinner. And the restaurant was called The Twisted Fisherman in Milwaukee's, I think it's pronounced Menomonee Valley. I pronounced it wrong. I don't know. That's just how I am. So it's a seafood place right by the river, and Max used to work there as a cook. They had what appeared to be a lovely dinner, and surveillance video will later be shown about this. But then after that, they headed downtown to a bar on Water Street called Duke's on Water. Now, mind you, Sade's only 19 years old, but apparently they're still giving her drinks. I'm not sure if it's because maybe she's with Max and he knows, and he's like a local bartender. But so just before 11:30 p.m., Sade texted a friend to let them know that she was heading back to Max's place to hang out. But I did see that they ended up leaving the bars right after like 9:30, and that's when they headed back to his place. Well, her friends were like, okay, cool. She went back to his place. Like, it is what it is. Whatever they're going to do. Maybe they're going to hang out. Maybe they're going to do more. Who knows? Well, the following day, it's April 2nd, and Sade was scheduled to work at the pizza shuttle. And remember, I told you that she was one of those types of employees that even though she was 19 years old, she was always on time. But on April 2nd, guess what? She didn't show up. Yeah. Sade's coworkers immediately grew concerned. It wasn't one of those things where they're kind of like, oh, she'll show up eventually. It was just something like a feeling, like they were like, something's not right, right?
Yeah.
She had never been a no-call, no-show before, and they continued to call her cell phone off the hook. But of course, in these types of situations, her phone went straight to voicemail. So later in the day, after they continued trying to call her, straight to voicemail, it was either one of Sade's coworkers or a friend. Maybe it was a friend who was a coworker. Reports conflict on who called, but someone reported Sade missing. And sadly, there was some sort of miscommunication or a mix-up. They did take the missing persons report immediately, and they took it very seriously. But they failed to inform her mom that her daughter was missing until 2 entire days later. So Sade was reported missing on April 2nd, and it wasn't until April 4th when her mom basically gets this call letting her know, like, hey, your daughter's missing. Now, when her mom found out that Sade was missing, she was pissed off and like, why didn't anyone tell me? We have Live 360 where I could have showed you exactly where her phone had last been pinging, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but her mom is pissed off, but I need to rewind just a little bit because her mom doesn't find out that Sade is missing until April 4th. But before her mom had found out that she was missing, something occurred on April 2nd, actually before Sade, or almost like simultaneously as Sade was being reported missing. You see, a passerby out for a walk in Warnemount Park spotted something that must have been, in my personal opinion, straight out of a horror movie. As this person was walking, lying near the Lake Michigan shoreline down a bluff in the park, there was a human severed leg.
Oh,
Yes,
one leg. That's it.
just one leg. This leg
I
had
don't
been...
even know. Oh my God. I think that you wouldn't even think it was real.
No, I would think it was like the leg, that leg
A
lamp
mannequin.
out of the freaking
Oh,
the
right.
Christmas Story. Like that's what
Yeah.
I would think it is. Like unless it didn't have a shoe, but listen, we're gonna find out. This leg had been cut right below the hip. So what I'm assuming is happening is that the guy's walking by, and he probably gets closer, right? Like they just get a little bit closer and
Oh,
closer and
right.
closer until they're like, oh crap! Like you could probably see that it's not a mannequin, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a heartbreaking detail that we will later learn later is that the toes on the foot of the leg are painted pink. And there's a note that says that pink happens to be Sade's favorite color, but this will come up a little bit later. So the police found this leg on April 2nd, and although it wasn't immediately confirmed to be Sade's, once they got that 911 call of a missing 19-year-old woman and a severed female leg being discovered in the general vicinity, they were kind of like, oh my gosh, this might be really bad. But the connection to Warnemount Park would become crystal clear when authorities start to track Sade's phone, and her phone just happened to be pinging at or near Warnemount Park in the early morning hours of April 2nd before the battery died. And then while they're searching for Sade, they actually find her car, and her car had been set on fire. So, I mean, this story just gets crazier by the minute. At this point, the investigation is moving at lightning speed, and they knew that they had, that she had last been seen alive by her date with Max. So, and of course, because she had been telling everybody, as soon as she's reported missing, her coworkers are like, hey, listen, she had a date with this guy, Max. So like, what gives,
Yeah.
So the authorities, they're already digging into Max, and I'm going to tell you what they find connecting him to the crime in a minute. But before that, they not only found Sade's car, which was completely charred, by the way, but the Milwaukee police, they start getting phone calls like around the city about more human remains being scattered.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
What is this freak?
Girl. And the thing about the body parts is that like these next couple of body parts, they're found really close to where her to where her car had been found. So one more thing that I want to tell you. Now, this was all happening early in the morning. So she's on this date on April 1st in the evening. It's like April 2nd at like between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning when her car is like charred. And there's actual witnesses that are seen like yelling because they saw the man who had basically doused the car and lit it on fire. Now, we'll get to that. Over the 3 consecutive days that followed after the car fire, investigators are finding human body parts, remains everywhere. And at first, they didn't publicly confirm that those body parts were connected to Sade, right? Because because they needed to do DNA testing. But the authorities already knew, hey, we found her car. It was charred. Her clothes that she had been wearing the night before that was seen on surveillance video, like her clothes were in the car. So they were like, what the hell? And of course the body parts were just body parts. Like it was not like a severed leg with like jeans on it, right? It was just like a literal naked leg. So authorities are backtracking Sade's movements during her April 1st date with Max, and surveillance cameras show them at the restaurant, then at the bar, and then it shows them leaving. And then at around 11:23 p.m. after the bar, that's when Sade texted her friend. Now, I'm led to believe that maybe it was Max texting the friend. But anyway, she was heading to Max's house.
She texts a friend and says, I'm going back to Max's house.
Yeah, but that's like at 11:30, and I was reading
Okay.
in other reports where she left the bar at like 9:45 p.m. and then headed back. Now there is surveillance footage from a neighbor's house that has
Hmm.
kind of like you can see movement going in and out of this side entrance of Max's house, and he lived in Milwaukee's South Side near 39th Street and Oklahoma Avenue, and from the surveillance, it's very limited, but we do know bits and pieces from the cameras and then from later evidence. A neighbor's security camera caught some on and off movement. You know those cameras that are like motion detected.
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
the motion detected cameras, and they caught some motion at his house between the late evening April 1st and April 2nd at 12:45 p.m. And mind you, they drove back to his house from the bars in Sade's car. So Sade's car is seen leaving Max's house at 12:45 a.m. That suggests that she's leaving the area, right? And at 12:45 a.m., Sade's phone records show her phone leaving Max's house. So her car is leaving, her phone is leaving, like Sade, or at least Sade's phone, is leaving Max's house. And then she's never seen alive again. Now, investigators deduced that Sade arrived at Max's house alive, that she was murdered, and then that her body was disposed of after her murder. Whether this guy had like a Dexter style room set up with plastic,
Yeah.
that's something that one of his friends will say that he had planned back in the day.
And
But
his friend knows. Ooh.
well, it's one of those things that I feel like we hear a lot in our cases, that it's like people are like, we don't really think that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. Like if someone tells you, no kidding, Tab, like, hey, I am going to set up my basement like Dexter, like no kidding, plastic everywhere. Then I'm going to take a girl on a date. I'm going to bring her back. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to dismember her. And then I'm going to dispose of her body all over the city. Are you going to believe that?
Maybe.
Maybe. I
probably
don't,
would
I
be
mean,
like,
I probably would. I'd be
but
like,
no, I
we,
think I'd be like, we have a problem. But that's also one of those things. It's like if you call the police and tell the police that your friend just said that, they're not going to do anything. Like there's
they're not going to do
no,
anything. No, they're going to
no,
go maybe
because
do a welfare check of the person. But I mean, and even if the person does have plastic all over the floor or whatever their house, did you see my DIY project when I sprayed one of my walls? I sprayed a featured
yeah,
wall, and my house, my room, no kidding, looked like a Dexter room. I had plastic from the ceiling. I even covered the fan. Like it was wild. So yeah, the police would not be able to do anything.
I
But at
know.
least you would have the report, I guess. But anyway,
Yeah.
so at this point in the story, it's the early morning hours of April 2nd. No one else knows any of this yet. Not that Sade has never been seen alive again. None of it. Not her mom, not her friends, not her coworkers. And the only clue that something is wrong are the movement of Sade's car and the phone around the city that night. And then her car is freaking found, and it is completely charred. When I tell you completely charred, I mean it is completely charred. So through a combination of license plate readers, cell tower data, and even an app that Sade had on her phone, which was Live 360, investigators later traced a chilling path. After leaving Max's house, Sade's phone traveled through various parts of Milwaukee, and then it stopped, becoming stationary in that area of Warnemont Park where a leg was later found. Now, Warnemont Park is this big park along Lake Michigan. It's quiet, lots of trees, and it has like this bluff down to a beach by the water. Warnemont Park wasn't just some random spot, we later learned. We learned during testimony at trial, because we are going to get to a trial later, that he had this secret beach, and this was the location where he used to take one of his ex-girlfriends. Like, no kidding, down this bluff is like, he used to call it his secret beach. Now, his ex-girlfriend at the time, actually asked him, like, hey, what's the name of this park? He told her, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you bringing anyone here.
What?
This guy is like such a freak, and the fact that he actually had like a girlfriend that stuck around like is bizarre to me.
Yeah. Like how
So
long?
I don't know how long they dated, but they dated long enough that she said that he took her down to the secret beach on a few occasions.
Oof,
Yeah.
gross.
I know, super crazy. So it appears that he drove there that night with Sade's lifeless body to dispose of evidence. And during his trial, they actually show, they show surveillance footage. You can't actually see who's driving, but there's like, usually people get down to this location by walking down, and you can kind of go through the trees and whatever it is. But because he was trying to get down there with a car, he drove through the gate. Like the gate was locked. There was like a spot maybe for rangers or whatever. It was locked, and he like drove through it. Like, how did this guy not realize he was going to get caught?
I don't know.
This guy is like such a weirdo, which is good that he got caught because, I mean, he really seems like a serial killer in the making. So
you don't think he's killed anybody else besides
well, they have not discovered anything yet, but wait till I tell you a little bit more about the giant holes in his backyard.
Oh my God. He for sure has. I mean,
By the way,
this dismemberment and throwing the body around the city is not your first rodeo. It's just not.
By the way, this guy, he doesn't have a roommate per se, but he owns this house. It's basically owned by his dad. He owns this house, and there's like there's like different like apartments. Like his friend used to use, or his friend or tenant or whatever. His tenant called him a landlord from hell or something like that. I think is what I heard on the testimony. But the roommate used to use the front entrance, and then Max used to use the side entrance because that's how you could get into like Max's like apartment, and then you could also get into the basement. And we'll talk about that basement in a little bit. But prosecutors believe that this is where he took her. So when they go to his house, they don't find any of Sade's blood necessarily. So it doesn't appear to be that that's where he dismembered her. However, it could be if his friend was telling the truth, that he had set up the room as a Dexter room, basically had it all set up, then chopped her body. By the way, he's also kind of like a DIYer like myself. So he had various saws, various objects that he could have dismembered a body with. But his attorney later brings up like, hey, he had a roommate and his roommate didn't hear anything crazy. Although his roommate did testify that not on this night, but on prior occasions, he was always doing weird wood projects or cutting things in the middle of the night, and he thought that was weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
That's
because
like total Dahmer.
Other people. Yeah, so it's not. I don't think it was his DIY. I think it was other people that we just haven't found out yet.
Yeah, it's like super, super wild. So. Prosecutors, because they didn't find the blood at the place, they were thinking that maybe he dismembered the body like at the bluff, at the beach. But I have not ever heard anything with regards to whether there was like a big bloody scene at the place, at the bluff, at the beach. So what I think probably happened is I think he did have this Dexter room set up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as assistant district attorney who prosecuted the case, Ian Vance Curzon put it to the jury, this is the time, meaning like in the middle of the night, he said, this is the time, ladies and gentlemen, where he is cutting up her body. She's dead. And now it's time for him to get rid of her body. So he is going to do whatever he needs to do to get as far away from Sade Robinson as possible. So he dismembered her body, whether it was in the park or whether it was in his house. It is insane. So from when he disposed of part of her body, Max doesn't do a very good job covering his tracks because that same morning, like around 7 a.m., whatever, firefighters in the Milwaukee area were called to a car fire on the north side of the city near 30th Street and West Lisbon Avenue. The car was completely torched, and authorities, I feel like the license plate is like the one thing that never gets torched, right? I feel like it's always just kind of like there. So of course they run the place and they discover that it does belong to Sade Robinson. And remember, this is early in the morning of April 2nd. She still hasn't been reported missing.
They don't know she's missing.
Yeah. And this is where it's almost like, guy, like you should have just pled guilty, because from there, surveillance camera on a city bus actually catches the location of the burning car, and it captures Max Anderson walking away from the area of the burning car, and then it captures him on the bus shortly
Getting on the
after.
bus.
Yeah, getting on the bus. And
He's such
I'm
an
not sure if you know
idiot.
this, but buses have surveillance cameras on them. And he's
Yeah.
seen just sitting there. He's seen just sitting there. And he's just kind of like this. And he has a black hoodie on. And he has this giant backpack, which he probably has body parts in that backpack, which is probably, girl, I have no idea. So he ditched the burning car.
I think he took the car. I think he has all the body parts in the car, and the car is like bloody as heck. And
They didn't. Oh, okay, go ahead.
oh yeah, did they find blood in the car?
They didn't find body parts. I didn't see anything about blood.
No.
Because it was torched. So
Yeah, that's why I think he had all the body parts in the car, and he took that car on a. That's where he was like, I'm gonna just dispose of her with her own car. And at the end, the last body part was probably the leg. And then he torches the car and gets on the bus and goes. I mean, he's like, this is actually like a real, it's like a horror movie.
it is a horror
Real
movie.
life horror movie.
So,
Yeah.
and then you have to imagine, like, these investigators, they're just finding piece by piece, right? So they're finding her leg here and they're finding this there. And it's crazy sad because it's not until April 18th, which is over 2 weeks after she disappeared, where they find there's like a second major discovery, right? So in South Milwaukee, about 5 miles south of Warnemont Park, someone, and these poor people, they're going to have PTSD for the rest of their lives, but someone walking along another stretch of Lake Michigan beach stumbles upon a torso and an arm. And mind you, you're not only finding this is just like, that is really traumatizing. Like if you think of just a torso.
Oh. Yes, because you're not. It means you're like you're looking basically at a beheaded person.
Well, and not only that, but I'm not sure. I haven't read whether it was both breasts, but one of the breasts had been removed from the body. So I mean, yeah,
God.
this guy
is
is
a serious
sick.
sicko.
Sick. Yes. Yes. Sadly, DNA evidence would confirm that all of these body parts belonged to Sade Robinson. In the weeks and months that followed, more body parts were recovered, and it wasn't until 2 months later that they discovered Sade's right arm, which washed ashore down in Waukegan, Illinois, which is further down from the Lake Michigan coastline. So what I think happened was when he disposed of her body, I don't think he disposed of her body like just like dumped it on the sand. I think he like threw it into the water, which is why the body parts kept being found kind of like further down, down from the lake. And then he disposed of other body parts, just like in the city, I guess. So by the end of the search, investigators had found both of Sade's legs, her right arm, her torso, and even her right breast at various sites in the area. But really, truly, tragically, one part of her body that has never been recovered is her head.
It hasn't.
Mm-mm.
Never.
Never found her head, which is you kind of wonder like why, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder maybe he buried it or something. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
The whole point is that
he didn't tell. He didn't say at the end.
No, he's innocent. He says he's innocent. What are you talking about?
Oh, please.
When you see this guy's face, like he literally just looks like a ghost. Like he looks like a ghost. He's just like, he has like this stupid look on his face. So
I looked him up. I just looked him up. He's disgusting.
Yeah. And it's just so, it's so brutal because even till this day, we don't know, there's no motive. There was no motive. There was nothing known that they got into a fight or anything like that. Like listen, if he had planned this and told his friends about it months earlier, he didn't even know the girl. Like he just happened to pick her 2 days before, and she just said to the date.
Were they on like?
No. Remember, they met at a bar. They met at the bar. Remember,
right,
he's like a local guy. Yeah, he's just a local guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So random.
Oh my goodness. So what's crazy about all of this is that it just Sade's murder happened to be her first and last date with Maxwell Anderson. And when I did a little bit of research on this guy he had been charged in the past with a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but he had with a few felonies, but like felony violence, like he beat up some, him and his girlfriend, or him and a woman had gotten into an argument in 2019, and there was like a 56-year-old guy who was just trying to stop the fight, and Maxwell like just got on top of him. Like, and he was young in the time. He was, he was like 29, 30. He like pounced on this 56-year-old guy and just started whomping on him. And they charged him with like felony, like whatever. Assault. And assault. And he every single time he got charged with something, he always pled it down to like some sort of misdemeanor. And I think on the last occasion, the judge was like, hey, in addition to this, it seems like you have issues with alcohol. Oh, he also had like cocaine in his system at some point. But they were like, you need to not like use any of substances. But here he is going on a date, like drinking. Right. So it did seem that he came from a family that was pretty well off. His dad, he grew up in a family that had like a regular house. And he also grew up with a family that had not only a regular house, but like a lake house. So, I mean, I think that anybody who has a lake house is kind of well off.
Fancy, yeah.
Fancy. And so it has been said that Max's father always came to his rescue. His father would later say like, hey, listen, I never did that. I never came to my son's rescue. But there are several accounts where it seems like his father did like always kind of bail him out. But at this point, right, his dad can't bail him out. So they had more than just a suspicion that Max had done something to Sade or to make her disappear. And after they found her car and they got their hands on that bus surveillance footage, it was clear that Max was involved. But at first, interestingly, he was held so they arrested him actually on April 4th. Yeah, they arrested him on April 4th. So imagine, like, they're arresting him. They're also informing her family that she's been missing for a couple of days, right? Because they don't have DNA evidence yet to confirm. But they hadn't arrested him for her murder at that point. They actually arrested him for a probation violation. And they, whenever you get arrested for like some sort of violation, they can keep you for 48 to 72 hours before charging you with something. And by that point, they had enough evidence where they were like, yeah, this guy did something to her. And it was on April 12th when prosecutors formally charged Max Anderson with first-degree intentional homicide, in addition to mutilating a corpse, hiding a corpse, and arson. All the while, Max denied any involvement. He was like, I don't know what happened. Like, she was here. It's possible that she left and someone did something to her after she left, but it wasn't me. Even though his face is freaking seen on the surveillance footage, right?
You're like, you just set her car on fire for no big reason. Like,
yeah,
you walked out and you were like, forget her, I'll torch her car.
Yes. So from the moment of his arrest and throughout his trial, which just took place in 2025, he has maintained his innocence, or basically he has said, like, I didn't do it. There's no proof that I did it. It was probably some other random guy, and he just happens to be the unluckiest SOB in the planet, that his date got murdered and that he was seen on camera disposing of her car, right? Okay. So after his arrest, authorities conducted a search of his house on 39th Street, and there were no obvious signs of anything, no obvious signs of blood. Well, obvious signs of blood, I say. There were no body parts, nothing like that. It looked like he had done a pretty good job cleaning up, or that maybe initially was thought that the violence or like the dismemberment had taken place in another location. However, once they found that friend that was like, oh no, hey, listen, he totally had like this Dexter room planned out, it almost seems like that's why they would not have found any evidence. But they did find something else.
All the like plastic and all that.
I don't know. That has never been found. Found. So they did find some really incriminating things, although they didn't find everything that I just mentioned. So they found some pictures on Max's phone. In his camera roll, investigators discovered disturbing photos that he apparently took on the night of April 1st into April 2nd. And this was while Sade was at his house. There is one image of Sade lying face down on his couch, seemingly unconscious or incapacitated. There is another photo which shows Maxwell's hands pulling down her pants and underwear while she is like laying on her front. Like, so it's not like one of those things where
moving.
She's not moving. So it's not one of those things where she's moving. She is like clearly out and he's over here taking pictures of himself, like taking her pants down. And it's her bare back, right? So she's not wearing a shirt. So there's also a picture of him, holding her breast, or at least one of her breasts is exposed. And eventually, which is beyond me how this guy could plead not guilty. But they actually find a picture of him holding her breast, like her severed breast.
Oh my God. This guy is he actually took a picture of himself doing this?
Yes. Well,
and
his face is not in the picture. Right, it was on his phone and he had tried to delete it. I think he had tried to delete it. But they found it, right? So they found it. Because he could say like, oh, that's not Sade, or that's not my house, or somebody planted it, right? This guy at this point, he'll argue anything. But the prosecutors during trial, they actually pointed to like, look, that's his couch in his house, and that's her right breast that is exposed, and then his hand is holding her breast. Like, and not only that he's holding the breast, but then he's holding it while it's severed at some point, right? So that's like just crazy. So they also find Sade's clothing, and they found it in her car. And they also found, they found it in her car, but they found it in the trunk of the car. And it's the same ones that she had been wearing in that cell phone photo with him pulling her pants down. So it's kind of like, bro, like, you did it. Like, you totally did it, right?
Yeah.
Her clothes are partially burned, but intact enough that they can recognize that that's what she was wearing that night. So, of course, he tried to destroy evidence of the assault by burning her clothes in the car. I didn't read anything about what else they found in the car, but they do find traces of blood at his house when they do a luminol test, and they find traces of blood on the walls, but preliminary tests indicate that blood does not belong to Sade, which it really does raise questions that you just brought up. Like, is this guy a serial killer? Had he done this to other people? Like, first of all, why would there be blood on the walls?
He is, because when you kill somebody violently, that's what happens. But I guarantee this guy has more bodies somewhere, and hopefully they'll find out.
Well, and then I did listen to his roommate's testimony about how about how he used to do all these like projects, and how he would dig like
projects.
Yeah, he would dig like what is this guy, like a dog? Like he would dig holes in the backyard. Like at first they were like small, but then they were like relatively large holes. And so then when his roommate was like, hey, what are you digging holes for? He said something like, I'm building an outdoor bar. I say, what are you building it under the ground? Like what what? It doesn't make any sense. First of all, if I was his roommate, I would be like, I am not going to live here anymore. All right. So, first of all, I always think about it. Like, I'm not sure if my kids one of my kids gets bloody noses all the time. So there's just like blood everywhere, but it's never on the walls. Like, I'm like you'd have to be like swinging to like get blood on the walls.
I think that when you kill somebody violently, that's what happens, right?
That's exactly what it is.
I think it's violent. It's a violent situation.
Like you can't control it. Like you can't control where blood goes when you commit a crime like that. Yeah. Right. All right. So, and that was another thing. His friend who he had confessed to or whatever, he said that he was planning on shooting his victim and then chopping them up. But I didn't hear much about a gun or bullets or anything like that. So let's get into something else that they found in his house. They found something called what they were calling the sex dungeon. I swear, these people and their damn dungeons. So multiple law enforcement sources told reporters that Max's basement was outfitted as a sex dungeon. We're talking
Dude,
chains.
No.
Yes. Chains, restraints, and like just a creepy hidden like room. By the way, his ex-girlfriend, okay, this girlfriend got away. Thank God she got away because she testified about how he had this room set up and that he also, because he was like a DIYer, he would set things up and then cover it up so that people didn't realize that there were hidden objects behind that. Like he would do like his bathroom and he would put tile and then he would leave like a little hole and then he would put a tile in front of it so that no one knew it was like a secret compartment. So like, I wonder if the authorities found what the hell he was hiding in there. But this girlfriend, like, really, she should have, I don't know. And like, again, I say he could have just been like a weird 50 Shades of Grey type of guy, right? With the sex dungeon. And that's like actually probably more common than we would like to believe, I guess.
Okay,
I don't know.
did the girlfriend report that she used the sex dungeon? Like she knew about it?
She didn't, she didn't
was into
report.
that?
No. Well, no, her testimony was strictly to talk about all these secret things that she knew that this poor woman eventually like walked into and had no idea, right? So she talked about the secret beach. So she was the one who was like, hey, he had this secret beach and it just so happened to be Warnemont Park. And she also talked about the sex dungeon, but she did talk about the secret compartments. I don't know that they ever found anything from there. I didn't watch the full trial, but that was just a part of her testimony that I heard.
Yeah, it would be interesting to me to know if like I don't know if there was a point where Sade goes to his house, he's thinking she's going to be into this kink. She gets there and is like, "What the actual F? This is like not what I signed up for. I'm fucking out of here." And he's like, "No, you're not. Get back here. We're finishing this date off." And that's what happened.
I think he planned this because he told his friend months earlier that he was planning on doing this. So, and if they didn't, they have not found the location where he dismembered her body. So unless he freaking took his saw with him, it's possible when he went to Warnemont Park, then it's possible that he did have this whole room set up and that maybe he incapacitated her while she was upstairs. Remember, he's a bartender, so he could have easy access. And I don't mean that all bartenders have easy access to, but it's possible that he could have easy access to the date rape drug. And maybe he gave her a drink or maybe he whatever. And then she just became incapacitated and then he took her downstairs and killed her.
Yeah, what? Oh my God. That is so heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking for the family. I can't imagine her mom having to sit through this trial and listen to this testimony of what happened to her daughter. I mean, this is like, and what can we do to get these people off the streets when your friend comes and tells you like, okay, we need to take this serious, but even if we take it serious, how do we prevent, another Max from doing this?
Yeah, and he had a criminal history as a problem. But remember, it had always been pled down from felonies to misdemeanors. There was one, this guy had no, I was reading a story about one time when he was driving his car. This guy really was just a psychopath. He was driving his car and then there was a cop who was chasing someone, right? There's like a car chase, a police car chase. And the cop is the lady he was chasing got around Max and was driving, and the cop was trying to get around Max and Max kept blocking his way so he couldn't get through.
Yeah.
And then the cop actually registered the plate or whatever, and then as the cop was finally able to get around, Max flipped the cop off. Like, who does that? Not that everybody who does that is a potential murderer, but he's just such a little dick. I'm sorry. He just is.
Yeah.
So it does sound like he had been planning this, and he was very much capable. And I mean, thankfully, he didn't cover his tracks well. Now, besides the physical evidence from his home, investigators pieced together a mountain of digital and video evidence tying Max to the crime. There was a harrowing trail of evidence, as one news outlet called it, right? So let me just break it down for you. So they had surveillance footage of the date. They had the neighbor's security footage from the house. And they also had the phone location data. So Sade's phone records and her Life 360 app show her phone leaving Max's house and going to Warnermont Park in the early morning hours of April 2nd. So the phone stayed in the park, and then it eventually did die. And there were also license plate readers. The license plate readers were really helpful for this investigation because they picked up Sade's car moving around the city during that overnight, over those overnight hours. So police could trace exactly where her car traveled after she allegedly left his house, right? So they also found the burned car and the bus video. But I forgot to mention something. There was also a gasoline purchase. Investigators found receipts and camera footage showing Max had purchased gas cans and gasoline, which he would later use to set the car on fire. Now, this did come out in the criminal complaint. There was also the digital footprint. Besides the Life 360, they were able to pull cell tower logs that showed that Max and Sade's phone were together most of the night until her phone eventually died. So all of this formed a really powerful circumstantial web of evidence against this guy, right? Prosecutors later summarized it by saying that Max killed Robinson and then tried to make her disappear by discarding of her body parts into Lake Michigan and then burning her car. They truly, the investigators in this case, left no stone unturned to get justice for Sade. Max Anderson, however, he kept quiet publicly. He didn't testify at his trial, and he really hasn't made any public statements. He didn't confess, none of that. Initially, when he was arrested, he just claimed hey, I have no idea what happened. And I already told you about that, right? His defense team later argued in front of the jury that, listen, yes, they were on a date, and yes, those are her body parts, but he is just an unlucky guy. And after she left his house, someone else could have killed her, and it's not even his fault. I mean, if you think about it, it was such a weak theory given the evidence. But I think the most damning evidence was not only that bus footage showing him walking away from the burning car, but also the pictures of him with Sade at his house and her completely out of it.
I mean, that is 100%. He's guilty.
Yeah. I think what they struggled with in court, is there was no clear motive besides the fact that this is a potential serial killer in the making.
He's a sick freak. He is, he watches these movies like you, and gets off on it. And then you and Dexter and who God
You
knows
is so.
what
Do
else,
you
and then
are you
he's
caught up with you?
No.
Oh my gosh! I just caught up. I'm done. It's over. The series is over. It is so wild.
Wow.
It is so wild. But yeah, I was watching it recently.
The first, 2 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it got kind of crazy in the middle. But as I was watching it the other day, I literally thought to myself, this is sick that we watch this. You know what I mean?
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Because he's such a creep. I mean, and it's the guy from Gossip Girl, and I loved Gossip Girl, but I just get so annoyed because we were watching it and we're all so intrigued, and he's sitting here jerking off watching someone from afar. It's just so gross. I don't know. Don't watch it. If you do watch it, but if you don't. It's just, I don't know. It made me feel, I was glad the series was over because I could just feel normal again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you feel gross. I mean, you
do feel gross.
Know what happens, but then you feel gross. But yeah, this guy's watching it and thinking what? How can I do something like this?
Oh my gosh. So listen. So of course, I feel a lot of attorneys, they, especially in these stranger cases, they're not strangers, but they're there's no clear motive, a husband and a wife. There's so many reasons why one would want to kill the other potentially. And I don't mean that in a joking manner. I just mean like there are so many reasons that someone could just be pissed off. But in this particular case, there is no clear motive. And I feel like the defense always kind of like hang on to that. Like, hey, there's no motive, like why someone would do this. But remember, in trial, it's not the prosecution's duty to prove a motive. They're just there to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person did it. I mean, we cannot get into the mind of a serial killer and figure out why the hell they do what they do, right? So the trial of Maxwell Anderson we try. So his trial began in Milwaukee County Circuit Court on May 29th, 2025. It had been about a year since her murder, and the case had garnered, of course, a lot of local and even national attention. The courtroom was packed with Sade's family, friends, and, of course, the media. So during opening statements, the prosecution they kind of went through this was her first date. She was never seen alive again. This was a gruesome murder committed by this guy. He dismembered her. This is all the evidence that we're going to present. This was a gruesome, gruesome case. They also talked about how like brutal and callous he was, but also how nonchalant he was the very next day. Because by the way, the very next day, he actually went to work. Like he just acted like nothing happened. So he didn't want anything to seem amiss. And they told the jury that. They were like, listen, this is not just some guy who did it and then had any type of remorse. Like he went to work, business as usual, the day after, like disposing of this woman in different body parts all over our city.
Yeah.
So the jury got to see all the surveillance video. They got to see, God, listen, and I think I've told you this before, but these poor jurors must have PTSD because they had to see pictures of the dismembered body parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
the family. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so tragic. It's so tragic. And this guy, like, I hope the mother's statement to him was just reaming him.
Well, remember, whenever they show these pictures, like the graphic pictures, the people in the gallery, they don't see it. It's only for the jurors' eyes. So the mom probably could see the evidence. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of like in the Diddy, like in Diddy, remember when we talk about like how the jury had headphones and like tablets or whatever it was, because they don't want to put that type of information out there. Because there's literal serial killers right now who are true crime enthusiasts just like us who are watching this just to get off. Like, you know what I mean? So they don't put that evidence out like that. So the prosecution was like, listen, we don't have any direct eyewitnesses, but we have all these breadcrumbs that are going to lead you to only one conclusion. So one thing that was revealed at trial was that the cuts on Sade's body parts were consistent with being cut with a saw. I mean, I didn't see anything, though, that there was any blood found on the saw that he allegedly had or that he owned, but that's what they said it was consistent with. So the jurors actually looked visibly disturbed, according to reports in the courtroom, which I can only imagine, like, you'd have to get me a vomit bag. The prosecutor then said in closing arguments that one does not end up going out to dinner and then going out for drinks for a good time and then all of a sudden like dead, cut up into pieces, discarded in Lake Michigan, unless someone intends for that to happen, right? And this is where they're going towards, like, this was not an accident that he just tried to like correct, like maybe he overdosed her. No, this is not what happened. He intended for Sade to die before she even went on that date. Of course, Maxwell Anderson's defense attorney, which his daddy paid for, some guy named Anthony Cotton, had a very different job with regards to the evidence. He basically said, hey, listen, they didn't find her blood in his house, but they did, by the way, find her DNA on a different jacket, not the jacket that he wore on the date, but the jacket that he was seen wearing when he was on the bus. That jacket got tested for DNA and her DNA was on it. Like, I'm not sure what kind of DNA, but her DNA was on that jacket. And they were like, why was her DNA on that jacket, right? No, it shouldn't be. So I already talked to you about what the defense's, theory was. He was like, hey, listen, there is no murder weapon here. None of her blood was found at his house, despite all of that forensic testing. Like, this guy did not do it. He said basically like, find my client innocent, right? But even with that, the defense didn't present any of their own witnesses. The trial was handed to the jury the very first week of June 2025, and they got the case on Thursday afternoon. That evening, or I'm not sure what time it was, but they only deliberated for 20 minutes, and then the court adjourned for the day. So what I believe happened is that they already, like within 20 minutes, they already knew how they were going to vote, but they just wanted to have a night to kind of sleep on it, right? They did return back the next day, Friday, June 6, 2025. They went back to deliberate for only a few minutes, and then they told the judge, like, we have a verdict. It's not surprising that it was unanimous, guilty on all counts. Maxwell Anderson was convicted of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, hiding a corpse, and arson. There was a huge sense of relief that could be felt in the courtroom, and there was also emotion. You have to think of like the family wondering, like, oh my God, is this guy going to get off? Like, is he going to get away with killing our kid? Some jurors were even, emotional as the verdict was read. And you and I talked about this before, especially with our new podcast, The Alternate. Like, there is something about a verdict being read and just like the intense, like, moments right before that like once the verdict is read, it's almost like, I don't know, kind of like a sigh of relief. Like you can just finally like let your guard down, regardless of what the outcome is, Outside the courthouse, Sade's family and supporters, they were gathered there. Everybody was wearing pink in her honor because that was her favorite color. When Sheena, who is Sade's mom, came out of the courtroom, she was holding pink flowers, and she said that her daughter was a hero in her eyes. She basically said she will be forever remembered as an angel, and that throughout all of this, that she has felt Sade's spirit guiding her. Sade continues to talk to me, to guide me, and her mission is still wanting to help others, Sheena said. So reports say that Max showed little emotion when the verdict was read, but we should play this. Dom, if we can, we could play his like facial expression. Like this guy's facial expression is basically like this, like he just looks so like he has no emotion, but he does look slightly shocked. Like it's almost like, oh, like he just like dumbfounded is almost like, I guess what I could call his facial expression.
Gosh. Yeah.
So listen, he's facing a mandatory life sentence for the homicide conviction. They don't have the death penalty. Wisconsin does have life in prison for first-degree murder. And the judge set a sentencing hearing for, I believe it's the first week of August in 2025. So we don't know what he's going to be sentenced to. But at sentencing, the judge will formally impose, he probably will just get life in prison. But then, of course, he has a decision to make.
Talk about that?
There's no death penalty here. But he could either get life in prison with the possibility of parole or without the possibility of parole. But let's be honest, he chopped up the girl's body and then disposed of it throughout the entire city.
There better not be any parole. This guy is the worst of the worst, you guys. Like, he's not one that's going to come back from this. He's never going to be rehabilitated. I'm telling you, like, it's so weird because you do these cases and you think about what people do, and not all murders are the same, right? Not all murders are the same. But if you are found guilty of a murder, a lot of times your sentence is set for you regardless of the murder or the person. So sometimes it's, it is life in prison. Like this Preppy murder trial, the Preppy Party murder trial we were talking about just before we went live. He was 16 years old, and I am pretty sure if he gets found guilty, that's life in prison. Like no
and you said he was. You said he was being charged as an adult, right? So even though he was 16, he was charged as an adult. Charged as an adult. Yes. And we could talk about that forever.
Yeah, 16-year-old is just not an adult. I'm sorry, it's not an adult.
Yes, I know.
This kid
so hard.
went to private school. He does not have I think some 16-year-olds could be more adult-ish if they've had a life that, was a little bit harder and put them in situations where they had to learn a little bit quicker than others. I think that I was a little bit, older than I was at maybe not 16, but by 18, I worked and I had like life experience. I think of my daughter who doesn't have any life experience, and I'm like, you're almost 16. You have no idea. You are not an adult. You're not even close to an adult. You can hardly even freaking you can't even drive. You could barely drive.
Oh my God. And this is such a good conversation because you think about it. You're like, okay, well, it's so unfair that you could be 16 and this judge could be like, oh, you're going to be charged as a youth, or you're 16 and you're going to be charged as an adult. Like you're not I personally feel like you're not an adult until you're an adult, until you're 18 years old. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's so hard.
Even at 18, you're barely an adult. You are barely an adult. And so I feel bad also when people do things and they are 18 and their mindset is like more like 15. You're like, dude.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, well, Tab, you got to be reasonable. They say that men are not like fully, like their brains are not fully formed until what, like 26, 27. And that is, I've heard that. Have you heard that? Can you imagine if we didn't hold men accountable until they were 27 years old?
No. I mean, listen, like I definitely think that at a certain point you're like, okay, like right from wrong. And I do think that even at 16 right from wrong. I just don't know if the sentencing has to be as stringent at that age than of somebody that commits some sort of crime at
I'm pretty sure, don't quote me
18,
on this,
19,
but I'm pretty
20.
sure that even if you're 16 charged as an adult, sentencing is slightly different. Like because isn't that what happened to no, never mind. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. It's something with never mind. I'm not even going to say it. Yeah, look it up.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up because I would really like that to be, because I don't, it's hard. The sentencing is hard. It's not in this case. I would actually be okay with the death penalty for this guy.
You mean Max, not the
Max. Yes. No, Max. But also with Brian Koberger, I would have totally been fine with death penalty. I think that there are certain people out there that you're never going to be able to rehabilitate this human being, no matter what you do. And so just keeping them in prison, they're never going to be a advocate or anything like that in our society. So
yeah, no, I mean, listen, I don't, we could talk about the death penalty. I don't know that people get mad, but I mean, there's cases where I feel like, feel like even people who are against the death penalty, there's cases where they're kind of like, I can make an exception. Like, I do feel that there's cases that are like that.
That's what I mean. Listen, I don't normally think that the death penalty is okay. I'm like, I have a very hard time thinking about the death penalty. Also because I feel like there's too much time in between like what happens to when they are put to death, that they can be a totally different person by the time that they actually like get called up to like be put to death. And then now you're putting to death somebody that maybe isn't the person that they were at the time. So that's also like a moral situation, but
well, listen,
if you are a sexual predator and you hurt children, then I don't care. You can be put to death. I don't want to see you walking this earth anymore.
You know what I have a hard time with, and now I'm getting just a little bit sidetracked. I have a hard time when there's overwhelming evidence that someone did it, and then they're convicted and they're sentenced to death, and then they're literally on their deathbed, like no kidding, like getting ready for the needle, and they're kind of like, I did not do this. And I'm like, bro, like what? Like there is video surveillance of you doing it. Like I just wonder, like, what is happening in your brain? Like, I don't know. That I just have a hard time with that.
That's the other thing. It's like maybe you should come to Jesus and admit your sins and
before you go. Yes.
Yeah, hope that somebody gives you some grace and in the hot place,
Oh
you
my
know.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
But
let me tell you, let me just finish up this one with Sade, because Sade was a beautiful young lady. And after her murder, before the trial, the community organized something that they called a Pink Out Memorial. And remember, pink is her favorite color. And so what they
yeah.
did were dozens of people showed up wearing pink, releasing pink balloons, tying pink ribbons, and they did this right in front of Max's house. They also not only had a pink out in front of Max's house, where it is presumed that she was killed, but they also did it at her favorite spot, which was the Pizza Shuttle, which is where she used to work. They literally
Oh,
transformed the lawn outside of the crime scene into a memorial full of pink flowers, posters, stuffed animals, all to honor Sade. And I was told, or I read, that even Maxwell Anderson's father, at one point, he came forward, not at the event, but he did come out and publicly offer his condolences, saying that his family was shocked and devastated by Sade's senseless murder. It was a rare moment of
well,
empathy
good. I'm
coming
glad
from,
that they
yeah, yeah, that they said something, right? I mean, he
family.
also came out
Yeah.
and was like, hey, listen, everyone's saying that my son is a murderer, but like he hasn't been proven guilty in a court of law. But, but anyway, whatever. It is what it is. I guess. In the aftermath, Sade's mother started a foundation, and she calls it the Sade's Voice Foundation. And it was set up to carry out Sade's legacy by speaking out for primarily underserved BIPOC individuals who are missing, murdered, or whose cases have been neglected and mishandled by media and law enforcement. And that's their mission statement. Basically, it's an organization to advocate for other families going through what Sade did, to make sure that these cases aren't overlooked and pushed, just to push that they're better handled. Although from everything that I read, even though there was that miscommunication with those 2 days, which, I mean, that's not just a miscommunication, that is like a failure, that they did not notify her mom that same day. But it did seem like they didn't just like push this case to the side. I mean, she was
Yeah.
reported missing on April 2nd. They arrested him on April 4th, clearly for like a parole violation, but they knew it was him, and they kept him behind bars where he deserved to be the entire time, right? The
Yeah.
organization is also set up they fund, self-defense classes for young women in Milwaukee. And there is
Yeah.
also a scholarship in Sade's name. And then one more thing, I did want to add this. I know I talk too much, but Sade was awarded her degree posthumously. Remember, I told you she was weeks shy of
Oh,
graduating with
yeah.
her associate's degree.
Yeah.
And so the month after,
That's awesome.
uh, right. So in May of 2024, just a month after her death, Milwaukee Area Technical College held its commencement, and Sade's mom and her sister walked on the stage wearing a pink graduation cap to accept Sade's associate degree in criminal justice.
Mm,
So that's the story of Sade
that's really nice.
Robinson. It's a hard one. Cases like this stick with you, and I kept thinking about it as I researched it. And then even like up until like the minute we were getting ready to record, I actually found a news report where the jurors made I guess the media, they were right outside of the courtroom. And as the jury came down, they were like, hey, do you want to talk to us? And a few jurors did come forward. And there was one guy who literally said, like, this is what nightmares are made of. He said, throughout this entire trial, he goes, I haven't even been able to sleep because I can't get the pictures of what he did to that woman out of
Yeah.
my head. Like, and he even said, he's like, I'm glad that the trial is over. He goes, I'm just hoping to be able to like cleanse my brain from the tragedy of what this case was. And so that really stuck with me, because like we have to think that as a society, we're asking like normal human beings who aren't true crime enthusiasts like you and I to like come in, make a decision. Oh, and hey, and by the way, here's your ticket to
Yeah.
PTSD for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Totally. And you know what? They did the right thing so they can sleep at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's nice that they
So
did
this
that.
is one of those cases where, I'm single. I have not been on one date yet. And I don't know that I plan on ever being on another date, but I always say like remain vigilant always. And she was vigilant. She had the Life 360. But it just goes to show you like, I mean, it could have been her second date. It could have been her third date or fourth date. But like, I don't know, like how can you trust people, right? Because it's not like he's
So
walking around with a
hard
big
to
ass
trust
sign on his
people.
forehead that says like, "Hey, I'm a murderer," like in the making, you know?
I know. I
Well,
know.
anyway, that's the story, Tab.
All right. Thank you for that. If you want to hear more of Margot and I, we do have the alternate podcast.
Yes,
and we
yes.
were going to do the Brian Koberger trial. However, that has just ended without a trial. And so we are on to Donna Adelton, which you heard Margot tell the story a couple weeks ago. That is going to come in August. And we are doing cases that are just smaller. But the Crystal Rogers case, you guys, we did that episode back in 2021. And her boyfriend, baby daddy, is finally on trial for her murder. I know back in that case, we had talked about the fact that we all thought that it was him. And so there's a recap of that trial that's going on right now. Also, a preppy, the one I just talked about, the preppy high school party recap. That one's a really good one too. So head over to the alternate. We have really good stuff there. And you can always find me on Thursdays at patreon.com/Housewives of True Crime. And this Wednesday, I have a very special guest with me, and that one's just going to be free bonus for everybody. And it's my friend,
Yay.
Catherine Sweitz from the FBI.
Oh, that's
Which,
going to be exciting.
yeah, it's good. So anyways, that's all for today. So clink, clink.
Clink, clink.